Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show. We're recording this episode breaking down the West region of the 2025 NCAA Tournament on Tuesday night, March 18th. I am watching. We're just early in the second half here with St. Francis beating Alabama State 44-38 right now. The winner of that will go on to face number one overall seed Auburn. We just broke down the South region of the NCAA tournament. So make sure you are subscribed to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show YouTube channel because we will be going region by region. Again, I've already done the South region. Here we are doing the West region. So make sure you are subscribed to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show YouTube channel. Leave the videos a like. It does help out the channel. And then also please make sure you are following me on Twitter at BRamseyKSR, the best place to stay up to date with everything related to college basketball throughout March Madness and, well, beyond. But here in the West region, obviously, we're going to start with the number one seed Florida Gators, who are taking on Norfolk State in the round of 64. And you could make a very legitimate argument that nobody is playing better entering March Madness than the Florida Gators. They ended up with the fourth number one seed, but again, you could make a strong opinion that they could have been the number one overall seed. They rattled off wins over Texas A&M, Alabama, and Ole Miss to finish regular season play, then ripped off three in a row down in Nashville over Missouri, Alabama, and Tennessee to cut down the nets at the SEC tournament. They also they have another win over Tennessee from earlier in the season. They also won at Auburn this year. So it is just an incredibly impressive resume for Coach Todd Golden's squad. They are 30-4 on the season, finished 14-4 in the SEC in the regular season. Then, as I mentioned, went on to win the league championship in Nashville. Walter Clayton Jr., I think, is one of the best players in the country that probably doesn't get the national attention. Now, he was just named a first-team All-American by the Associated Press today, so maybe he does get the accolades on a national scale, at least by college basketball people. But I'm not sure entering this tournament here that, you know, your average fan that casually watches college basketball realizes that Walter Clayton Jr. is one of the best players in the country. And then when you pair him with a guy like Elijah Martin in the backcourt, who's played in a Final Four at Florida Atlantic, with a veteran wing like Will Richard, then obviously guys like Alex Condon and Thomas Hoke who have really stepped up in the front court for the Gators. I think that you have arguably the most complete team in college basketball. They are number one right now in KenPom adjusted offensive efficiency and 10th in KenPom adjusted defensive efficiency. Just a very, very complete team. The one small wrinkle, I'm not going to use this as some upset pick, but Norfolk State does play a lot of zone, as much zone as any team will here in March Madness. So it could just get a little quirky. This is one of those games where, like, I'm not going to be completely shocked if it's 13-11 with 11 minutes to play in the first half, and then at some point Florida, starts to roll. But just something of note when you turn that game on this coming week. Moving on to the next matchup, certainly one that is much more intriguing overall. And that's 8 seed UConn, the two-time defending national champions led by head coach Dan Hurley, against number 9 seed Oklahoma, one of 14 Southeastern Conference teams to be represented here in the NCAA tournament bracket. The three-peat most likely is not going to happen. Now, they have accomplished as much as some previous three-peat seekers have done. Just making the NCAA tournament got them past a couple of those teams from the past, but it hasn't been this season that some people thought it could be for the Huskies. And we've had this conversation several times here on the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show about whether we gave UConn too much credit in the preseason or, at the time, maybe not even enough. And I really questioned whether it was a top 25 roster. And I just thought that, hey, you have to look at how much these guys lost from last season's team. And I think that we're seeing that play out where, there was a period of time where they were flirting with the bubble at different points through Big East play, get in here as an 8 seed going against a team. Now, Oklahoma might still be without Sam Godwin, one of their starting big men in this game, but you have Jeremiah Fears, one of the best individual guards in college basketball, elite playmaker, a guy that can create his own shot, one of the best players in isolations and off of ball screens in the country. Jeremiah Fears will be an NBA lottery pick once the draft comes around. And Jalen Moore, a stretch four, very versatile, very unique piece for the Sooners. I really like Oklahoma a little bit in this one. I thought they were one of the more talented teams throughout the season. They were 13-0 in non-conference play, and then struggled through the grind of the SEC, but started to pick some things up late with wins late in the season to solidify themselves in the NCAA tournament over Missouri and Texas, then beat Georgia in the SEC tournament to really close the door on any bubble talk. But I really like when you have Jalen Moore and Jeremiah Fears, I think you have a real chance in the month of March. A 12-5 matchup that everybody is going to be talking about, and that's Colorado State taking on Memphis. I think Memphis has kind of quietly gotten themselves to a 29-5 record. They won the American Athletic Conference regular season and conference tournament championship. I don't care what league you're in. It's really, really hard to do that. So credit to Coach Penny Hardaway and their squad for that. Now, we know that they are capable of laying some eggs. I mean, they have a loss to Temple. They have a loss to Wichita State. They've lost to Arkansas State at home earlier this season. But this is a very good team. They are athletic. They can shoot the three. They can get out and pressure you defensively a little bit as well. But all of that, the calculus changes if they potentially are without Tyrese Hunter in the Tigers' backcourt. Now, they still have PJ Haggerty, one of the best scorers in all of college basketball, but he's going to be matched up a guy, and I'm really excited for the nation to get a look at Nick Clifford for Colorado State in this one. He is probably the best scorer that you have not heard about enough this season. Colorado State, led by head coach Niko Medvedev, who I think will be a candidate for some high major jobs this cycle. They've won 10 straight, including winning the Mountain West Tournament championship on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with wins over Nevada, Utah State, and Boise State. This is a team that shoots it well from three. They aren't afraid to pick the tempo up a little bit offensively, but they also then can slow you down defensively and really grind things out. They defensive rebound at a very, very high level, which I think will negate some of the athleticism and aggressiveness that you'll see from Memphis on the glass. They take care of the basketball pretty well. I know it's the pick that everybody's making because, heck, the Rams are literally favored as a 12 seed to beat 5 seed Memphis. But I think with Nick Clifford, they can just get enough stuff done here to win this game. And I think that people are probably disrespecting Coach Penny Hardaway's squad a bit too much. This Memphis team is really, really good. And they deserve to be here as a 5 seed. But I really like Coach Medvedev's squad. I like Nick Clifford. I think that the Rams will continue dancing in this tournament. And you have 4 seed Maryland taking on number 13 seed Grand Canyon. I'm a big Grand Canyon fan. I watched them quite a bit throughout the year. I obviously like Coach Bryce Drew and what he has going on there, but I just think that the makeup of this matchup is not good at all for the Antelopes. They're going to try to run with Maryland, which is very, very hard to do. Also, Grand Canyon does not shoot the three very well, and also Grand Canyon turns it over a lot. Maryland's a team that likes to run. They can really shoot it from three, and they turn you over at a pretty high rate. So I just don't think that everything lines up very well here for Grand Canyon. This one, not to mention, and if you follow me on Twitter at BRamseyKSR or you subscribe to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show, you've heard me throughout this season really, really carry the torch for this Maryland team. I love Jacoby Gillespie. Julian Reese and Derek Queen are one of the most dynamic front courts, I think, of any team in the tournament here. Then you have Miguel on the perimeter that can really shoot it. You have Rodney Rice on the perimeter that can really shoot it. I think this Maryland team has all the pieces, and we'll get to more of this later. Like they can make a run in this tournament. If you want a dark horse to make it to San Antonio, I think the Terrapins are that style of team this year because I just don't know outside probably of their depth. Like I think their first 5 or 6 are as good as anybody in this tournament, quite frankly, just in terms of having the pieces and being dynamic at each position. So I just don't like this matchup really for Grand Canyon. Speaking of matchups, the matchup between number 6 Missouri, number 11 Maryland, number 11 Drake, I don't think is great for the Bulldogs. Now, Coach Ben McCollum, he's played his way very quickly after winning 4 national championships at Northwest Missouri State. He's quickly become one of the hottest names in this coaching cycle. He was mentioned down to the wire with the Indiana job just recently here this evening as we're recording this on Tuesday evening. Coach Darian DeVries was announced as the new head coach at Indiana. But that's going to open up the West Virginia job potentially for Coach McCollum. The Iowa job certainly has been linked to him as well, but that's all because he went 30-3 this year in his first season at Drake. And this is a guy that brought 4 of his 5 starters were starting at Division II basketball last year for him at Northwest Missouri State, led by Bennett Sturts, who's just been he was the Missouri Valley Player of the Year. His team won the Missouri Valley regular season and tournament title this year, going 17-3 in the league, then beating Bradley once again to cut down the nets in Arch Madness. But they just play at a snail's pace, 364 out of 364 per KenPom. Like, this is a team that will play in the 50s possession-wise, mid-50s possession-wise if they have their druthers. Now, what they're able to do that because they're elite defensively and they're going to extend possessions, and it's going to make games very close a lot of times. So it's going to be hard to get out of the 60s when you're playing the Bulldogs. But Missouri has the athletes and the length, and they can cause some chaos that I think will make it hard for Drake to play that game. Missouri's going to turn you over some. They're going to score in transition some. They're going to get hot and start making some threes. And I just think it's going to be hard for Drake to keep up with the athleticism in this matchup. Now, Mark Mitchell being healthy will certainly play a role in that. I think he'll be back, but that remains to be seen. But, with what Anthony Robinson can do, certainly with what Caleb Grill can do in terms of getting hot from 3, Tamar Bates has had an excellent season. And also, I talked about this in my South preview with a team like Marquette. I think Missouri falls into this category a little bit of a team that just a few weeks ago, we would have been talking about Missouri as a 2 or a 3 seed in this tournament. And then just the way that they finished down the stretch, they lost 4 of the last 5, including 3 straight to end the regular season. Then they lose to Florida in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament. But prior to that, they were 20-6, 9-4, and we would have been going into Selection Sunday as a 2 or a 3 seed if you are Coach Dennis Gates and the Tigers. Let's not forget this team went 0-18 in SEC play last year, so let's make sure we're giving Coach Dennis Gates his flowers for what he has accomplished this year in Como. But I think that Missouri can get in there and quicken the pace enough to make this a very uncomfortable game for Drake. Now, I will say this. They didn't play the best teams in the world, but Drake was 3-0 against power conference competition this year. Now, those teams were Miami, Florida, Kansas State, and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was a very good win for Drake, but I just think the contrast of styles here, I lean towards the team that I think will have an easier time dictating the pace, and that's Missouri. Moving on to the 13-4 matchup between Texas Tech and UNC Wilmington. I think Texas Tech is possibly the most complete team on the 3 seed line, probably the best 3 seed that there is. I kind of look at them almost as a 5th 2 seed in terms of how talented they are, how complete they are. JT Toppin has had an All-American type season this year for the Red Raiders. They just don't have a whole lot of flaws. They shoot the ball well. They take care of the ball. They rebound it at a pretty high level on both ends of the floor. And then, like I said, they have the star power in JT Toppin that a lot of times you need to carry the day round to round in the NCAA tournament. I just don't see a scenario where UNC Wilmington makes this overly competitive going into the second half and certainly down the stretch of this game. Certainly one of the most compelling games of the first round of the NCAA tournament across the entire bracket is number 7 seed Kansas against number 10 seed Arkansas, because that means Bill Self going against John Calipari in the round of 64. Now, I think a lot will come down to how healthy Arkansas is in this game. Is Adu Thiero back and able to really go? It sounds like Boogie Fland's going to give it a go, but is that really what you want, even with as talented as Boogie Fland is? I mean, he was one of the more dynamic playmakers in college basketball when he was playing. Don't forget how good he was through the first half or so of his freshman season, but it wasn't translating to wins because when he was playing, that was when Arkansas started 0-5 in the Southeastern Conference. I'm not calling Ewing theory here, but they didn't start winning until Boogie Fland went out of the lineup because it really unlocked John L. Davis, and it just seemed like that there was some clunkiness in Coach Calipari's system when he was trying to share the ball between Fland and John L. Davis. And I had said it the whole time that Arkansas wasn't going to be as good as they could be until John L. Davis became their best player. And guess what? I don't just make this stuff up like I always like to say. because once John L. Davis became Arkansas's best player, they became an NCAA tournament team. Now, Kansas is in the boat of obviously super high preseason expectations. The metrics loved them. I thought they had the best roster in college basketball. I was wrong about that. They don't. It still doesn't fit very well together because you're just playing DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, and Hunter Dickinson too many minutes altogether because you're force fed into it because those guys are all in theory very good players. Now the Jayhawks are still excellent defensively, especially in the paint, especially around the rim. I think that'll make it very hard on Arkansas to score enough to win this game, especially if they aren't 100% healthy with a Duthier slashing into the basket, with Boogie Flan being able to make plays. So I think Kansas will do enough to win this game, but it certainly has not been a pretty year for Coach Bill Self. But ultimately here, they're going to have a chance to advance in the NCAA tournament. That's really what you play the season for. So I think a lot of people will start to forget some of his struggles if they can make a little bit of a run here in the month of March. Then you have St. John's against Omaha. I don't think anybody's kicking trash cans in the locker room after this one. Coach Rick Pitino and the Red Storm will certainly move on. Just overwhelming defensive effort here, probably against Omaha for the Red Storm. I don't see anything crazy happening there. Once again, we're going to take kind of a 30,000 foot view, step back a little bit here, and let's look at the potential upsets in the round of 64 here in the West region. I don't consider it a whole lot of an upset because to me, 8s and 9s are the same, but I do kind of like Oklahoma to beat UConn. And again, what I talked about this with when I picked Yale over Texas A&M in the South region. If you're really playing like win bracket pools, that's a safe, again, quote unquote, upset to pick because Florida's probably moving on to the Sweet 16 anyway. So you might pick up some extra credit points if you pick the Oklahoma win and they do win. But if you lose, you're not losing a whole lot of points round to round because Florida's probably going to advance anyway. I do really like Colorado State over Memphis. And again, quite frankly, I think a lot of people are going to have that one. So you're not going to get killed if Memphis ends up winning that game, and especially because I do like Maryland a lot. Again, I don't see Memphis advancing any further. So I would take Colorado State over Memphis. I already mentioned I don't like Drake to beat Missouri. I definitely don't like UNC Wilmington to beat Texas Tech. I have a hard time imagining this Arkansas squad finding enough points to win in the first round here. I think it'll be another first round exit for Coach John Calipari. So I would really focus in on that Colorado State victory over Memphis as even though I realize that in Vegas that's not going to be an upset, but on your tournament bracket it'll be a bit of an upset. So I would take Colorado State. If I'm looking further down the road, I'm serious, folks. I really would look at Maryland. If you want to get frisky in the round in the Sweet 16 and you want to go out on a limb a little bit, I would pick Maryland to the Elite Eight and maybe even to the Final Four. I think that they are that good with that first five, and I think that the game slows down enough at times in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, you still have the TV timeouts and all that and everything. It's just a little bit extended. I think that you can ride your five dudes over the course of 3-4 games to make a run here, that Maryland could be a really difficult out. So looking down the road, they're going to be my dark horse pick, which is my next category. So I'll go ahead and kind of spoil that. Maryland will be my dark horse, but I would also look at that as a Sweet 16 upset of Maryland over Florida, even though I think that Florida's playing the best basketball there is in the country. So ultimately, I know I just called them their dark horse. I called them an upset pick. I think at the end of the day, this is a pretty chalky NCAA tournament. If you don't want to get crazy and pick the upset here, I still think the Florida Gators are certainly your safest pick to get on to San Antonio. We talked all about it. They're arguably the most complete team in college basketball as we sit here today. They have all of the pieces, front court and back court, the star power, Walter Clayton Jr., the veteran leadership, all of that good stuff. So I would stay chalk. I picked 1 seed Auburn. I'm picking 1 seed Florida here to move on to San Antonio. But don't sleep on Maryland. Even don't sleep on St. John's. I mean, I'm never going to count out Coach Rick Pitino. And that defense is next level stuff. But it's just tough to find it with a lot of these other teams. I know a lot of people like Texas Tech. I just don't see it at the very highest level for them. But we'll see how it goes. That's the beauty of March Madness. But I appreciate all of you being here for this breakdown of the West region. Again, we've already done the South region, so make sure you go watch that. And then we will have the East and the Midwest still to come. So look forward to those. But make sure you are subscribed to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show YouTube channel. A ton of content coming your way throughout March Madness. Also, make sure you are following me on Twitter at BRamseyKSR to keep up to date with everything that I'm doing this month and far beyond. Thank you for being here and enjoy the NCAA tournament.